from the legal team. The report before you today does two things. It briefs you on the Freedom Camping legislative changes, and it recommends that you amend our Freedom Camping Bylaw in response. In June this year, the Freedom Camping Act was amended by the Self-Contained Motor Vehicles Legislation Act to better regulate freedom camping in New Zealand. This included changes in three main areas: how people can freedom camp on council and other land, how the system for certifying freedom camping vehicles, and the types of penalties and infringement amounts for freedom camping offences. And a lot of these changes have responded to things that the local government sector has been asking for, so that's really good to see. And we're hoping that this should be better for our environment and reduce some of the concerns in our community. The changes to legislation included a specific requirement for councils to amend their bylaws to remove inconsistencies with the changes to the Act. They have made this an administrative process, meaning that the council can amend the bylaw to remove inconsistencies by resolution publicly notified without the need to consult through this report today. There is one minor impact on one of the clauses in our bylaw, which is around organised events, and that just means that when we can no longer give permission for people to freedom camp in vehicles that are not self-contained under that part of the bylaw because of a change to the Act. This is a minor change. This clause has not often been used. So if you agree to the recommendations in the report today, it will amend the Council's Freedom Camping Bylaw and update it in line with legislation.
Thank you very much. Councillor McDonald is happy to move it, and Councillor Henstock is happy to second it. So do we have any questions?
Yes.
Fire away, mate.
Just one quick question. This won't capture people who sleep in their car for a night or for longer than one night, will it? People who might be, let's say, rough sleeping or down on their luck for a few days or had a scuffle with the missus. Does that capture them, or will they be exempt?
Great question. One of the changes that the government made to the legislation was to exempt people experiencing homelessness from coverage of the Freedom Camping Act, and that aligns with the way that we've operated in terms of enforcement anyway, which is to refer people to social services or not take an enforcement approach when people are experiencing homelessness.
Brilliant, because the other one is we don't want people drink driving, and so people are better off to sleep in their car and sleep it off before they consider driving as well.
Okay, Councillor Henstock, please.
Thank you. Noting that we adopted the first Freedom Camping Bylaw in 2015, how much of a problem is this for our city and Banks Peninsula?
It's particularly a problem for our coastal suburbs and around Banks Peninsula, so we've got some key areas that are really popular for freedom camping. We still receive a lot of interest and complaints from our communities about the impacts of freedom camping, so this is very useful to have, and it serves a purpose.
And from a compliance perspective, how many officers do we have on the ground that are engaged in compliance for us? What does that space look like?
We have a different program that adjusts throughout the year, so it ramps up a bit more in the summer months. So it's weekend monitoring up and for a little while up until I think Labour weekend, and then it's daily monitoring over the summer period. We use an external contractor to undertake that work because it tends to be at night and early in the morning.
So do you see this bylaw change having any implications for our resourcing?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't alter anything. It's really just updating the wording to align with the legislation.
Thank you very much. Alrighty. So, Councillor Harrison-Hunt, please.
Cool. We noted the homeless and rough sleepers part within your feedback, but the other issues of people sleeping in their cars, are they going to be addressed through this too?
This won't do anything to actively address anything, in the sense that all this decision before you today will do is alter the wording in the bylaw to align with the legislative changes that have happened, and part of those legislative changes have been to more clearly exempt people experiencing homelessness from the coverage as opposed to recreational campers.
Okay. I think what I'm referring to here is actually weirdly what Aaron was referring to was around domestic violence victims, obviously drunkenness, things of the sort. I mean, what kind of intervention happens with those that are outside of that homelessness bubble?
As with any of our work that enforcement officers do, it's a case-by-case basis, so they'll go out, they'll speak to people, understand the situation. It varies, and it's just about communication.
Okay, and outside of that bylaw, there'd be obviously action plans when things like this are confronting for us.
That do you mean in an operational sense?
In an
as to
operational
how
sense,
we would,
yep.
Yes, there's some things in place there to help make sure that we're taking the right approach to things.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
For clarity too, are you saying that the switch from the blue self-contained card to the green one, which means you have to have a toilet on board, is that a government directive?
Yes.
So, we
So
can't-
there's a whole system change to
Yeah,
self-contained
but
vehicles,
it's
which
come
is
to us
great.
from- so we
Yep.
can't.
So the changes to the bylaw are just reflecting the definitions
Yeah.
for self-contained in the Act, which relate to those different ways of showing that a vehicle is
Yeah.
self-contained.
I really think that's going too far
Thank you.
personally, but there we
I'll
go.
just note too that there's a 2-year transition process for that, so you'll see both types of vehicles around for a while.